The Catholic Morning Show.
Welcome into the Catholic Morning Show. Deacon Mark Campbell, grateful to be with you this morning. We're going to turn to our next guest of the day, and it is Deacon Mark Burdt. He is down at St. Bernard's in Osceola. He was actually in my ordination class, so it's great to catch up with you again. Deacon Dr. Burdt, and is it Dr. Deacon or Deacon Doctor? What's the proper title for a man of your stature?
I prefer Mark.
Well, that is also appropriate as well, or Mr. Burdt, or Dad, as your kids refer to you. We're not going to talk about how your wife Julie refers to you, but anyhow, we're going to have a quick conversation this morning about some work that you do to help facilitate the Order of Deacons for the Diocese of Des Moines, and you're a part of the Deacon Advisory Board. Tell us a little bit about what that is and what your role is within the board.
The Deacon Advisory Board is just a group of deacons that assist Jim Houston, who's the head of the Permanent Diaconate, to get his duties done. My specific role has been in the education realm as far as making sure that we have continuing education credits available for our deacons. As you know, being ordained, that we are required a certain amount of hours of training each year to maintain currency. So we work to get retreats set up that are available to the men, some online training to provide continuing education credits, and then also our quarterly meeting of the community with arranging speakers and goings-on there.
Well, and that's one of the things I think is important for us to talk about here is we've seen the Permanent Diaconate grow in many dioceses across the United States and throughout the church. And I know you get the question and I get the question, what does being a deacon actually look like? And I think most of the time, people are first concerned about the length and the strains of the formation portion of it. But what does the diaconate look like post ordination? And people focus on the ministry aspect. But we are continued to be formed even after that. And so the thought that goes into how do you continue to take a large group of deacons? I think there's still 60 plus active deacons for the Diocese of Des Moines along different spectrums and times of serving the church. What sort of thought process goes into that education and how you continue to form the men to be ministers for the church?
I think one of the most important things is to make sure that men know how important that our continuing education is. It's as important as our spiritual growth as we go along further and as we grow in our ministries. As a physician, I'm required to do a certain amount of continuing medical education and take certification tests, et cetera, in order to maintain my professional standing. And being a ordained minister, a deacon in the church is no different. As professional ministers, we have certain requirements that we need educationally. Some of that comes from some of the simple things like maintaining currency and virtues to maintaining a certain number of continuing education credits that are required yearly. And we just want to make it available to the deacons and make it easy for them to attain so they can continue to grow in their ministry as well as their closeness to Christ.
Well, and I think that should provide our listeners and those involved with the church some comfort as, like you say, we continue to be formed and grow because as we've seen, culture and society continues to grow. What maybe topics specifically have you, focused on in recent history or even coming up for the diaconate community?
This is one of the years where we have some of the deacons will be assigned to different churches or different parish communities, so that's something we have been centered on. As far as helping the men make that discernment if they are called to move to a different parish or if they have desires to try a different ministry in order to help facilitate that. We're really trying to get good, high-quality speakers and educators for our retreats and for our educational units that provide something useful for the deacon, both not only for their spiritual growth, but also so that they can minister to those who we care for more effectively and compassionately.
Well, in as important as the education portion is and growing the spiritual life of the deacon, talk a little bit about the importance of the fraternity, bringing these men together to learn together and to be nurtured in all of these facets, but to continue to grow in brotherhood too as ministers.
And, you know as well as I do, Mark, that when we're in formation, we spend a lot of time together as husbands and wives and couples. And we're always told that, well, once you're ordained and get out into ministry, you will not have time together. And we all recognize that's the absolute truth. It's very hard with busy lives, with many of us still having careers, with families to take care of, and then ministry to attend to have that fraternal aspect to that. By offering our quarterly get-togethers as deacons, we offer not only continuing education time, but it's an opportunity for the community to get together and to reestablish roots and that fraternity that we had during formation. I think the best opportunity for that is the retreat that is offered annually, where you get 3 days with the men in your community, some you've trained with, some you know, some you don't know very well, to establish those connections again, which are so helpful as we try to be effective ministers.
Well, and I know it's been very helpful, too, just to have multiple resources, because we all serve at different parishes with different dynamics, and we're faced with different challenges and opportunities. And so to be able to kind of rely on one another as a resource as new opportunities and things come up. One of the things that you highlighted there is the changing of a parish. And unlike priests, deacons don't necessarily have an automatic change every 6 or 7 years or whatever that time frame. It's usually in that time frame. For deacons, it's a little bit different, and you have experienced changing parishes, moving there to Osceola. Well, what has that change been like for you?
You know, my wife and I moved from All Saints, which is an urban parish in North Des Moines, to serve 3 rural parishes down in southwest Iowa, including Osceola, Grand River, and then down into Mount Ayr. It's been eye-opening. Ministry in the rural communities is very different. God is still there, Jesus is still there, the faith is still there, but kind of the mechanics of it are very different, as we have quite a bit of travel time between different parishes. We have a large Hispanic community at St. Bernard's in Osceola, so there's a lot of cultural changes that we have to learn. My wife and I, Spanish is something we've been working on, struggling with, I should say. So there's been a lot of changes that way. And there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of deacons in the rural areas, so it's kind of a new minister that many of the parishioners have not experienced or had any contact with. And so there's kind of an educational piece there as far as what we do and who we are, as well as learning new communities to serve.
And I know one thing you've also experienced, Deacon, is the opportunity to serve different priests. I'm just going through that change for the first time in my ministry, as having a new pastor. You've had the opportunity now to have 3 different pastors in your time as a deacon. Talk about that a little bit and what new opportunities that presents.
You know, it always comes with anxieties when you get a new pastor, no different for our parishioners that are out in the pews. It's been a beautiful experience for me and for my wife, as we've got to work with 3 wonderful priests, all who have different talents and strengths. And so it's really helped me grow my ministry and kind of the nuts and bolts of the church and liturgy. But more importantly, it's been really important for my spiritual growth, as I've had the opportunity to grow and work with 3 different pastors that really do have different ways of bringing people closer to Christ.
Well, you're a great man, and your wife deserves a lot of credit for that. She's helped shape you and form you as well. Deacon Dr. Mark Burdt, I want to thank you for coming on the Catholic Morning Show today, and thank you for, not only your yes to the church, but in serving in the life of a parish, but serving the wider deacon community in this role on the Deacon Advisory Board. It's again something that I'll admit in this conversation I probably take for granted a little bit, and I know that there's a lot of work that goes into planning and executing these opportunities for us to continue to be nurtured so that we can go out and then nurture others. So again, thank you very much for your ministry and for joining us here on the Catholic Morning Show today.
Thank you, Mark, and may God continue to bless your family and your ministry.
Thank you so much.
Listen to the Catholic Morning Show weekdays at 7 a.m. Central on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network, iowacatholicradio.com, or the Iowa Catholic Radio app.